Hey all, how are you?
Hey,
Hey, yeah, finally good to see you all. Thanks for joining on this a great milestone for PPDev Weekly, which is 200th episode or 200 issue of the PPDev Weekly. So thank you all for all your contribution to this newsletter, curating it every week. I want to start with some questions. So first question is for Anvesha. What is the one thing that you like about this PPDev Weekly newsletter?
okay. Uh, I'll take some time, but when about I think a year and a half, uh, or rather before that, I used to go through this, a newsletter on LinkedIn. That time, I think Danish was the only author, and I used to be like, "Wow, this is so cool!" You get to see all the latest things happening in the market, and you see content from so many authors. You get to know so many authors, right? Then most importantly, it helps keeping you abreast with the latest stuff, in Power Platform and Azure and whatnot, right? So that would be the foremost thing which I really enjoyed doing. And then like I got that little sentence in the newsletter saying that if you want to join, someone wants to join, we can get connected. So I quickly sent my name, and that's how I connected with Danish. So yeah, from then on, it's been quite a good journey. So many things out there, and it really keeps me on my toes. Even while on my mat leave, I have been able to connect and see what's going on in Power Platform and Azure and other things out there. So that's one thing. I would like to add one more thing. The other thing is, like, I am able to connect with you guys, right? So all the MVPs and all the biggies out there. So it helps me connect with you all, uh, and and I really like that, making connections and being with you guys. We're not able to connect much, but indirectly, yeah. I know that we have Danish and Carl, and now we have Matt and Mark as well. So it I'm really happy to connect with you all. Yeah, that's the second bit, I would say.
Yeah, and we are happy to have you. You have been really big
Thank
contributor
you.
to us to our newsletter. So thank you very much, Anvesha.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So next question is for Matt and Mark both, and either one of you can answer or both of you can answer one after each other. So how do you go about selecting the articles for the newsletter?
So for me, it's I think of it quite selfishly. It's like I just go through all these different blogs and figure out what kind of piques my interest. So is there something there that I've never heard of before that I think could be useful for me? Because I figure if it's useful for me, it's probably useful for a lot of other people as well. Anything that is kind of deep diving into what's going on behind the scenes is always really interesting. But also kind of the slightly less technical ones, the more things about ALM and all the processes that go around development. So I'm a coder, I'll go for anything that's really code heavy as well, but you try and balance that with those more kind of process ones as well.
Right. Yeah. And then again, whenever we are curating, this is just what happens behind the scenes for you all guys, right? So we have one, like if it every week we have two authors who actually take the charge. So it is either it would be Mark and Carl, or Matt and Anvesha, or me and someone else, right? So then we balance that out as well, right? So like what Mark was saying, that he's very selective and like very code heavy, but then there would be some other author to balance that out and make sure that we have a balanced, curated newsletter for that week. How about you, Matt?
Yeah, so yeah, it's an interesting challenge because I have to try and bridge that gap. Right, we are named PP Dev Weekly, but there is so much content out there in the world that isn't necessarily just dev now. So it's an
Yeah.
interesting challenge to try and like Mark says, sort of selfishly tailor it a bit towards me. If I find something interesting, then I put it in there because there's so many people like us that we connect with at the community to do those things. But I also try and force myself out of my comfort zone because I am good in model-driven apps. I'm better in model-driven apps than I am in Canvas apps and Power FX, but there is a section, right? We have the sections in our newsletter every week that we've got to do, so it helps me understand what's important in the other areas that I don't use day to day. So I really just try and I find it very easy to get the content for the bits I know, because I'm up to date on it. I'm cutting edge on it. It's harder to get it on the bits I don't know. So it's an educating for me at the same time. And then the other thing I get a lot of the time is that so if people can request their own feeds to be added. We also, if we find a blog post that people don't know that we exist as a curator group, we can add other people internally as well, can't we, to our own groups? And I think we've got a pretty solid list now of I say we've got an incredible list, and then every once in a while someone goes, oh, here's a blog post we didn't know about, and then you read the whole blog and it's been fantastic for years, and God knows how many more there is out there of the same sort of thing. So it would be nice to just keep it going, keep those things be added to the group. I mean, I think I've seen a few this week alone from our internal emails between us. So it's, if anything, it's going to get harder over the coming time because we have more and more content to choose from.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And really good content getting created every week. Sometimes it's like so much of content that it's really, really very hard for us to even select what should go in the newsletter without overwhelming everyone else, right? So it's very tough decisions sometimes some week. Cool.
Yeah,
Okay,
it can
so
be a real sort of learning experience for us, as Matt was saying. It's such a wide platform. How do you can't be an expert on all of it. So reading through these blogs, it's kind of eye-opening to see how much depth there is out there in all these bits that I don't use every day. So yeah, it's a great way for us to keep on top of what's going on, as well as everyone else who's reading the newsletter, but actually putting it together is it's really educational, and just sort of see what's really possible out there.
Yeah, sure. All right, so the next question is for our first resident of our first team member of PPDevWeekly, Carl Cookson. So what inspires you to curate the newsletter every week?
For me, I think it's just reflecting what those other guys have said. It's really promoting those that don't have a voice. I think there's lots of people out there that have got loud voices in our community that are really shouting about what they're doing, but there's also a need for others to shout about the people that don't have that sort of will or want to shout about themselves. And developers traditionally are one of those groups that like to sit in their little dark rooms and just get on with it and do great stuff, but don't get shouting about. And it's when I find new stuff, when I find things that via connections and connections of connections, that people come to me and say, "Oh, we've seen this." That's what inspires me every time to keep going. Really, is to push that to a wider public and get them the recognition that they deserve. And then selfishly, like the guys have said, is educating me on what I don't know. My career has gone from developer to architect to back again, and in various ways as I've gone through. But I still recognize that there are a lot better developers out there. There are a lot of people that know CI/CD and ALM much better than I do, and finding that and being forced to find that in a lot of time every week, and then reviewing what's going on is sort of a personal aid for me. And I think it's one of those things that it is hard work when you do it every week, but now we've got the 5 of us and we're doing it every other week, every third week. It is something that has really just been part of what I've been doing for the last not 200 episodes, but I don't know how many when I started, Dinesh, you probably have to tell me. And then bringing Mark and Matt in that are pure devs, where I've got more of an architect head on, was essential to keep us going, really. So you're all inspiring me in a lot of ways.
Yeah, well, thanks, Carl. Yeah.
So a question for you, Dinesh.
Yeah.
200th episode. 200th episode. I want to say episode, but it's not. 200th newsletter. Did you think that you would get this far when you started? And what inspired you to start?
Yeah, well, I never thought that we'll reach 200. Initially when I was doing it by my own, and as more and more people started using the newsletter, I wanted to make it more diverse, make it more balanced out with all the content, right? And then if you see, the first newsletter were not so great. Like, it took me 10 tries to get to the format that we have today, and even more tries than that. So it was evolving. It was always like trying something new, trying something different, making sure that it's more interactive, it's more digestible for people. And then it got overwhelming as well at some point. And then that's when I reached out to Carl, and Carl was like, yeah, I'm ready to help you out. So thanks, Carl, for that. That relieved my pressure. And then he gave an idea, because I was traveling as well. So whenever I was traveling, there was no backup. So Carl was the backup at that point. And then after that, he had an idea of bringing a team together. That's when Anvesha joined, and Matt and Mark joined us as well. So never imagined we'll reach 200, but
Well,
glad
did you
we did.
imagine that? I've just looked at the stats. So our last newsletter, 198, because this morning's we haven't got out yet. It went out this morning, not counting that one. 3.87 thousand subscribers. It's had 20,000 views in the last 30 days. That's some incredible numbers. Really.
I was looking at the same thing. The growth is amazing.
Yeah.
So it's over doubled the subscribers in the last 50 episodes. So if we say that's a year, that the word is getting out there. People are enjoying what it is, and I think all your years of getting the format in right and getting to the point where we're at now, I think, is where you're really starting to pay the dividends of what you've built and the team you've built around it.
Yeah, for sure. And then there was a second question, Carl.
Why did you start, effectively? Why?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started when Dynamics Weekly was out there. And Dynamics Weekly had like 50, 60 newsletter issues already drafted. But then that was like everything. Dynamics Weekly was covering from functional to technical. And then if you see, he only had, so Guido did a very good job, first of all, right? And kudos to him for getting this idea of newsletters and starting that thread in everyone's mind of like what the newsletter could be for our group, our business application group. But then the developer focus was little bit less in that. It was like only 3 or 4 blogs could be featured in the newsletter. So I reached out to Guido and then said, hey, I have this idea of like, just dedicating the entire newsletter for the developers, because there's so much content out there that we can have just a newsletter by itself. And he was like, yeah, go for it. And then he actually guided me through the process of registering, like, identifying review as a newsletter at that point, and how to get started and things like that. So yeah, he was my inspiration to get started with the developer focused newsletter.
Very good.
Yeah.
Guido is definitely one of those that has started quite a few, including our sister, the Power Platform Weekly, etc. It's good to see.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, yeah, it was nice talking to you all. So thank you again for joining for this a milestone of 200th issue that would be going out this morning. So thank you very much all.
Thank you. And I'd just like to say a big thank you to all the people that put all this content together for us to feature, because without you, we wouldn't have anything here to be talking about. So thank you to everyone that's written a blog, posted a video, done a podcast, whatever it is. Thank you for all your great content and keep it coming.
Well said, Mark.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Thank you, guys. Nice to see you all.
Thanks, guys.